telling you that I was a young HR manager, probably in my mid-20s, 26, 27 years old. I don't remember exactly, but that was the basic range. I was working in my office one day, and all of a sudden an employee, I'll call him John. John came into my office. Now, before I go any further, let me explain something to you. I did not like John. As far as I was concerned, there was a lot not to like about John. And I also wanted you to know that I felt like I was in a superior position to John, not because I was older or smarter, but because I was in a managerial role while he was in a laborer role. Nevertheless, John comes into my office that day and he dumped a problem in my lap. It really makes no difference what the problem was. Let me simply say to you that it was a problem of his own making, and yet he was trying to turn it over to me so that he would not have any responsibility afforded it. And I don't know about you, but it was one of those days where it was just sort of the perfect storm. My attitude, the timing, the circumstance, the person, they all kind of came together, and I decided to do something that I've never done before. Before that date, I'd never done this, and I will tell you, I've never done it since. The one time in my life I've done this thing. I decided I'm going to tell John exactly what I think of John. That's right. Some of you said, I think I'll tell, or I think I'll give him a piece of my mind. I'm going to tell you, not only did I think I'm going to tell John, I told John exactly what I thought of him. You know what John did? He told me what he thought of me. I wasn't expecting that. Hold on, you can't do that. I'm the boss here. But one of the things I learned that day, and it was a valuable lesson as difficult as it was, when you attack someone personally, you can always expect a defensive counterattack. Now, it may be a frontal attack. They may come right back at you, or it may be an attack from behind, but they will always try to get even. And John told me what he thought of me. And in that moment, we both flared. Now, I'll quickly tell you, there was nothing physical about this confrontation. He didn't lay a hand on me, I didn't lay a hand on him. But I would argue this many years later, thinking back on it, that the scars that we created with our tongues in that 3 or 4 minute time period are probably longer lasting than anything we could have done with our fists in that same length of time. And then it was over almost as quickly as it started. He left my office, he slammed the door, window reverberated in my door. I mean, I didn't care, I was as mad as he was. Now here's the thing about working in a manufacturing facility that I think all of you can relate to. There's no question my boss is going to hear about this. The only question is, when? And that question was answered about 15 minutes later. I get a telephone call from my boss, and it basically was this: hey, Phil, just come on over to my office. I've got a couple things I need to talk to you about. Click. Did I know? I was absolutely certain. I knew exactly what it was going to be about, and immediately I flared again. I'm not going to take any of his crap. He thinks he's going to jump on me. I was looking for a job when I found this one. I had, as my kids sometimes used to say, an attitude. And with that attitude, I walked across the hall, and this is the last thought I had before I went into my boss's office. I'm not saying a word. He called the meeting, he can talk. I'm going to get out of here as quickly as I possibly can. I walked in, he told me to sit down. I sat down across the desk from him. He could immediately tell my attitude was not right. But he asked me a simple question. In fact, it was in the form of a statement. These are the words he said, the exact words he said, and to the best I can remember, this is the way he delivered the words from a tone standpoint. He said, Phil, I understand you had a little bit of a problem a while ago. Almost a lilt in his voice. Phil, I understand you had a little bit of a problem a while ago. My one-word response, yeah, as in come on. I didn't say the come on, that was implied. Now he could have stopped the meeting, the conversation, the proceeding right there and say, look, you're not going to talk to me that way. But if he had have done that, my anger was at such a point that it would have exploded. Jerry had a better idea, and Jerry had more self-control. Jerry picked up a pad of paper and he started writing, completely silent, never saying a word, just writing on the pad of paper. I, on the other hand, just sat back. Remember, I wasn't going to say anything else. When he finished writing on the pad of paper, he put the pad of paper down on the desk, turned it toward me, and slid it across his desk. He didn't say anything, but it was obvious he wanted me to pick it up and read it, and I did. I picked it up and read it. There were 5 words written on the pad of paper. The 5 words were these: when you lose your temper. When you lose your temper. I read it 2 or 3 times. I mean, it didn't take long. I didn't know what he was talking about, and I still wasn't inclined to respond. I just put the pad of paper on the desk, slid it back to him, thinking to myself, you want to talk, big boy? You can talk. He picked this pad of paper up, started writing again. This time did not take nearly as long. Puts the pad of paper, slides it back to me. When I pick it up, I realize he's erased 3 words. 2 words remained. He had erased the words and left illuminated the 2 words, you lose. And that's when he started talking. He said, you lose, boy. He said, I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but in less than 5 minutes, you were able to lose credibility, integrity, and professionalism. He said, Phil, I don't know if you've thought about this or not, but there are a number of people around who will be in my office before the day is over saying, Phil should go. He's abused the position, the trust that you've put him in. He should go. He's too young. He should have never been in that position in the first place. He said, but I have repeatedly defended you by saying, don't judge him on his age, judge him on his accomplishment, his execution. Until today. He said, Phil, do you have any idea what John is doing right now? I was so self-absorbed that once John left my office, I hadn't thought about John again. I was too busy thinking about Phil. The only other words I spoke in the meeting, no, I don't. He said, well, let me tell you what John is doing right now. John is in the break room, or John is in the employee dressing room, or John's out in the parking lot. I don't know where John is, but wherever he is, he's surrounded by employees right now who are saying, man, you got to old Phil a while ago. We heard about it. Tell us about it. How'd you do it? We might like to try. He said, yeah, there'll be those that try you from this point forward, Phil, because you've already proven yourself to be vulnerable. He said, Phil, you need to know that I'm not going to fire you, despite the wishes of others. I'm not going to fire you. And then he went on to say, I'm not going to discipline you in any way. And then he hit me with this one. He said, after all, what is it that I could do to you that's worse than what you've already done to yourself? He said, I'm not going to fire you. I'm not going to discipline you. He said, but I'm also not going to help you. I've told you what the problem is. You already knew it, but now I've made it very clear. If you fix this situation, he said, you're the only one that can do it. Now, if you don't fix it, next time, the consequences will be grave. But you got a chance to fix the problem. I went back across the hallway to my office, and I felt about as low as I'd ever felt in my life, but within about 10 or 15 minutes, I made myself a promise. And it's a promise that I've kept to this very day. You can believe that or not. I can't make you believe it, but it's still the truth. I promised myself that I would never lose my temper in public ever again. Does that mean I've never been mad? Of course not. I've been angry many, many times, but you won't know it. And those that come in contact with me professionally won't know it. Why? Because I have too much to lose.